Welcome to another week of Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. No Clarkey this week, but we are very pleased to be joined by our good friend from CKNX JR Hockey, Steve Sabourin. Sabby, what's up, man?
Hey, thanks for the invite.
Absolutely, man. It's great to have you on, and I mean, it's fitting that you're on. No Clarkey, he's a little tied up with some stuff. I'm sure he's very happy about his Leafs. Okay, big Game 3 win. We're going to talk about that. We waited to record. Thank God they ended the overtime for us early. We waited to record until after Game 3, so we will touch on that and a bunch of other NHL storylines. I mean, again, the first round of the NHL playoffs, just nothing like it. There's a lot going on in the sports world. We're recording this on Thursday, April 24th, and NFL drafts tonight. There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. NBA playoffs. We're going to be covering all that and more in the coming weeks, but our focus firmly on hockey for good reason, Sabby. And let's start with the local scene before we dig into the national stuff. The Hanover Barons playoff journey continues as we record this, trailing 2-1 in the PJHL Schmalz Cup semifinals to the Napanee Raiders. A tough loss in Game 3 in overtime. They won Game 2 after dropping Game 1 on home ice. Tough loss in overtime. You and JK were down there for games 2 and 3. Obviously, Game 4 will be Friday when the show airs. So if you've got the PJHL streaming, you can flip over and catch us there. Producer Adam, is at all of the Hanover home games for the remainder of the playoffs. And if you're watching this and missed Game 4 and want to watch it, it will be airing on Whiteman on Saturday. So stay tuned for that. You can catch the full action. Of course, if you're not watching, you can be listening to everything on CKNX AM 920 and CKNX.ca. Sabby, what's your read on the series so far? I mean, I was only there for Game 1, and I said after the end of the game not to panic, and I was proven right. You know, the Barons with a big-time bounce back. They suffocated the Raiders in Game 2. Game 3, a much tighter back and forth battle. At least that's how it sounded. You and JK sounded fantastic on the airwaves. It sounded like a tight one. Ultimately, what ended up, pushing the Raiders just over the line in overtime, in your opinion, in that game?
Well, I think actually the key part of the game, Ryan, was in the third period. It was Hanover leading 1-0 and then took a too many men on the ice call. So the bench minor led to the power play. There was a crowd in front of the Hanover net. Hanover player fell on the puck in the crease. Penalty shot was awarded, and that's when Napanee tied it up. So that was the key point of the game. You don't take that penalty, more than likely you end up holding on for the win in that game. But with that being said, the overtime again dominated by Hanover in the early part. Sam Barrett run the puck off the crossbar. I mean, another centimeter, and it would have been lower, and it would have been in. And then a rush after that chance for Hanover. You know what they always say, good chance at one end, goal at the other, and that's kind of what happened in game number 3. Hanover really physically dominated. Once you got past that top line of Napanee, Hanover really worked the puck down low very well. They just couldn't get that second goal late in the game to create that cushion that is nice to have when you get to that point of the contest. If you go back to Game 2, that's what happened, is Hanover was able to score that second goal and keep the lead and build on that lead and ended up winning that game handily. But it's close. I mean, you get to this level, you're with the top 4 teams in the PJHL across the province, and, every mistake you make is going to be under a microscope, and you really have to focus on that too many men on the ice penalty, which was the tipping point for that one.
Yeah, when you get to this point in a playoff run in any sport, you're coming up against, you're not going to be coming up against lower seeds and maybe teams that you saw all year and have maybe a bit of an advantage over in terms of strategy and lineup and all that. You're right. Like, the smallest little thing can tilt the series on its head. Ultimately, though, my read on the series is still that I believe Hanover is the deeper team in terms of what they can roll out throughout the entirety of their lineup. But the high end skill on the Napanee side, particularly their D-core, which we were talking an awful lot about in game one, their leading scorer in this playoffs is one of their defenders. You know, you look at that, and I don't know that Hanover has faced a D-core with 4 or 5 guys that can all really move around and make a good first pass. But again, it's like what you just said, Steve, with the mistakes. We're into the Final Four. You're going to be coming up against the best this league has to offer. And ultimately, I believe that this Barons team can adjust to that. I'm interested to see what they can put forth in games 4 and certainly 5, hopefully more needed beyond that. Again, though, I would say I wouldn't be panicking. I mean, it was a small mistake that ended up costing them in the overtime in game 3, and a small mistake that forced it into overtime. And ultimately, I think that they're going to be just fine. But you got to have game 4. You got to have game 4. You don't want to go back there down 3-1.
Yeah, it's important that they're able to get the win on home ice. But the message to the crew after the game was clearly, hey, boys, don't hang your heads. You know, this is the playoffs. This is how it's going to be played out. Nobody expected a 4 or 5 game series, right? So you're in it for the long haul and just to keep on pushing. I will point out a couple of things about this series so far. Number 1, power play penalty kill. The penalty kill of the Napanee Raiders is very, very good. The Hanover power play has not really caught any traction, and they're getting a lot of chances with the man advantage. Napanee hasn't been the tightest group when it comes to hooks and trips. They're getting caught a fair bit. So somehow that Hanover power play has to bust through. Number 2, Logan Vale. He's been a wall in the net for the Napanee Raiders. I mean, Derek Hartley's done a job for Hanover, don't get me wrong, but the number of quality chances that Hanover has had over the last couple of games has outpaced what Napanee has produced, and somehow Logan Vale is getting to the puck and making the stop. So they got to find a way to crack him on the second or third shot of an opportunity. Yeah, he'll make the first save, but then you got to get to the net. The third point, shot blocking. Both teams, amazing shot blocking. They're getting in the way of a lot of the stuff on the perimeter. No one's punching it through. In fact, Sam Barrett's crossbar ringer back in overtime was from the high slot, and it magically got through somehow. But for the most part, everything's being stopped from the perimeter. And I think that's Ryan, to your point about the Napanee defense, Hanover's letting the defense carry it up, but then just pushes everything to the side when they get in the offensive zone and has really neutralized the defensive attack. The goals that Napanee are scoring are on rushes coming in and getting close quarters for some decent shots. But those are kind of the summary points, I think, of the 3 games so far.
Yeah, and I mean, Hanover, you know, we've talked all playoffs, at least I have every time I'm on the broadcast. I feel like I'm on a broken record. Hanover's forecheck, like, it's just so good. Like, it's the best in the league, in my opinion. You know, I'm still waiting to see a team that can forecheck as consistently good as they can. And at times, though, they can get feeling a little too good about the forecheck and get a little overzealous and get caught down low for those rush chances the other way. We saw that in the Aurelia series, mostly in game 1, because Hanover, you know, to Aurelia's credit, like, Hanover dominated the rest of that series. They played an extremely sloppy game in game 1. Not to take anything away from that Terriers team, who were a really fun opponent to watch and had a ton of skill, but that's where Hanover can get caught sometimes, is those rush chances. But when their forecheck is rumbling along responsibly, guys are able to be in good positions to back check and take away that neutral zone. no one does a better job along the walls and taking away the middle of the ice defensively and in the neutral zone. And that forecheck, when it's on, it's just rumbling. And like you can even see at times, like Napanee, as good and mobile as this D-core is, they are having trouble with it. And ultimately, I think that Hanover just needs to stick to what they're doing. You know, I said to you guys, I had JK laugh, and he told me you wouldn't remember the saying. I had you guys laughing after game one with a little idiom from the great Bob Dylan, when I said, you don't need a weatherman to tell you which way the wind blows. And basically what I meant by that was, you know, and for the fans, like, we're at a stage of the playoffs now where we know what these teams are about. That saying basically just means you don't need us to tell you how good these guys are. Like, it's at a stage now where we're as much of a fan as we are broadcasters at this stage, because we're caught up in how good the hockey is. Not that it hasn't been good all playoffs, but you're at that final stage where, like, there's a light at the end of the tunnel called the Schmalz Cup, and all four of these teams can smell it. And the level of competition, like, look, we've covered the league for a long time. You much for double the amount of time I've covered it, Sabby. Like, if you live in a town that has a junior C team, let alone a junior B team, like, you got to go check this out. Like, the hockey that's being played is absolutely outrageous.
Well, and you look at the you know, how these teams are built. I mean, the caliber of players that are there, most of them could be playing at a junior B level or higher. Heck, two of the Barons were with the Tier 2 Junior A champions last year in Collingwood. So it's Mark McIntosh and Sam Bear. So the quality of the players that are there, they've whittled their way to the top, and you're down to the final four. I will say this about your comment about working the puck down low, and I think that's where the series is going to be run. There has to be more garbage goals. You know, throw it to the front of the net from the side, let it hit a skate, a leg, a body, an opponent's stick, or whatever. Get some sort of deflection in front of the goaltender. And that's where you're going to have success. Again, you can pound the puck from the perimeter, you know, all series long. But first of all, you got to get it through. And again, the shot blocking has been incredible. Number two, these two goaltenders should not be letting in a shot from the outside. Like, if they see it, they're going to be able to stop it. So they got to get some sort of deflection and down low work to take control of the series.
Yeah, Hartley and Vale, I mean, the two goaltenders have just been lights out good, and that's why a lot of those skill plays and those hard shots from the point where there's no traffic, like, they're stopping them. And then the two of them are so elite at this level that they're making those saves that, you know, like, you're not supposed to make, that other goalies just don't make. They come up with 3 or 4 10-bellers every game that keep your team in a good position and momentum turning your way. And, you know, I think that there's something to be said for that too, obviously, where it allows your team to not be as afraid to try things and make a mistake because you've got that guy back there. But I agree. I think that this series is going to be one in the trenches. It's not going to be a track meet, and it hasn't been. There's lots of speed out there. I mean, these guys can fly. I mean, the skating ability has been unbelievable, but it's at this stage of the game, it's trench warfare, and that's been a lot of fun to watch, and nobody's backing down. Remember, you can catch every single second of the remainder of the Hanover Barons season. We hope it's a lengthy one. You know, there's only one more step after this one, potentially. All of it on CKNX AM 920, CKNX.ca, and all of the home games will be broadcast on Whiteman as well. Producer Adam, we're going to see him at the rink quite a bit. Another great local story that's going on, though, and unfortunately, you know, the show airs on Fridays, so we're not going to be able to update on what goes down potentially in the semifinal. But how about the Minto 81s, the Minto Express just rolling along into the Allan Cup? And it's historical what this group is doing, Steve. I mean, look, they go back to back in their league this year, the first being the Ontario Elite Hockey League, but they go back to back league championships. And then they head off to the Allan Cup, and they become the first AA senior team to win a game at the Allan Cup, which is absolutely incredible that this tiny little community gathered up of a bunch of guys that have played hockey around this area forever and ever is doing this. And Friday night is the semifinal at the Allan Cup, and it's just bonkers that this team is doing this. We had Caleb Warren and Stevie Gibson on last week. I did say to them, if they win and bring the Allan Cup back, this show is doing a full-scale party episode with them. We're going to be doing the show on location in Palmerston. But it's amazing what's going on with local hockey here.
Yeah, and you know what? To go into your first game and outscore your opponent by scoring 7 goals, 4 of them courtesy of Garrett Mears, is great. And then who better to get the go-ahead goal in their second game in the round robin, Caleb Warren, to put the team up to win 3-2. But, you know, you look at not only the type of skilled player that is on this Minto team, but the character players that are on this team. And we've seen a few of them excel at their level in the past, and that just carries forward. And, you know, when you get a nucleus as, you know, tight-knit as this Minto team, you know, good things can happen. And they have a chance to win this tournament. Make no doubt about it. You're not playing a best-out-of-7 series. You're not traveling all over the place. It's a tournament format. Great. So they have an opportunity here, and they've had guys who won. Wiley Burkett, who won a Sutherland Cup with Liskowel last year, got called up to play with this team, and he contributed in the tournament so far. So, I mean, it's no surprise that they're competing the way they are. And now the trick is everybody knows who they are coming in. There's going to be no shock value or no surprise, right? So it'll be time to put on the work boots for them in the semifinal.
Absolutely, and wishing them the very best. You know, I would love to see an Allan Cup come back to the region. We've had Sutherland Cups. You know, back in the day, we've had Schmalz Cups in the area too. Not since the early 90s, but those have been around. Sutherland's, by the way, got to mention too, you know, the Sutherland Cup journey, the revenge tour continues for the St. Mary's Lincolns as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of exciting hockey stuff going on in Midwestern Ontario. And the 81s, like I said, you know, viewers and listeners of this show, if they win, we're going to be doing a full-on breakdown with the guys with the cup. It'll be a lot of fun if that happens, and we're definitely hoping for that. Steve, if you're good, we'd maybe take a break here and transition into some of the wild stuff going on in the NHL playoffs too.
Just before we get there, want to give a shout out to Bobby Raymond, who is a former Owen Sound Grey, and he is playing in Erste Liga out there, and actually got with Romania, I believe, winning their league championship over in Europe. So congratulations to Bobby Raymond of Lucknow. One of the greatest people I've ever met in the sporting world in my young career, and he was fantastic as the captain of the Owen Sound Greys, and he's made his way over to Europe to play hockey. So they won their league championship this season. He's
gonna have to change his name to Bobby Romania. That's pretty impressive stuff, man. Hey, like I said, the hockey tradition in this area runs deep, and it continues to, even across the ocean. How about that? Well, across this break, We're going to come back and talk all about the NHL playoffs, including a big Game 3 OT thriller for the Maple Leafs. Man, they've got the Sens in a stranglehold after tonight's game. We'll talk about that next here on Instigating. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. Ryan Drury here, still joined by our good friend from CKNX JR Hockey, Mr. Steve Sabourin. Remember, you can listen to and catch all of the Hanover Barons playoff remaining action on CKNX AM 920, CKNX.ca. Sabby, we now turn our attention to the National Hockey League, and the playoffs, man, when they roll around, it's always kind of like, people are always hockey fans complain about their sport more than anybody else, I think. And it's always like, the playoffs, I wish they'd go to 1 versus 8. I wish they'd do this. I wish they'd do that. And then it starts every year and we're all like, oh my God, this is awesome. And it has been. And let's start with the topic du jour. We have to, in Clarkey's stead, we'll talk about his Maple Leafs off the hop here. 3-0 stranglehold. I mean, the Sens made it interesting more so in Game 2, I would say. I actually felt they had a better opportunity to potentially win Game 2 when it went to overtime. Game 3, which we saw tonight, the night we're recording this Thursday, I didn't think the Sens were very good at all, and I thought that they had a good first 10 minutes. They were physically abusing the Leafs. They were causing turnovers, couldn't get anything going. Brady Tkachuk rescues them with a third period goal that kind of ticks off Carlos' stick. A goal, really the first goal I've seen Stolarz let in all series where I went, oh, geez, he'd probably like that one back. But ultimately, like late in the third and in that very brief overtime, I said to you, I'll read the text for everybody right before the overtime winner by Simon Benoit. And that's the great thing about NHL playoffs too. You love like watching the unsung heroes score one. This is the text I sent to Sabby before the goal went in. So Ottawa tried to force a play from their own zone. They tried to stretch the ice through 3 or 4 Leafs players in the neutral zone trying to hit a home run feed, and they didn't need to do it. And it ended up coming back in the zone, and Ullmark made a save off Domi, the Game 2 OT hero, setting up an offensive zone draw. The Leafs won clean back to Benoit. He snipes and scores. When right before that faceoff, I texted Steve Sabourin, who's right here with us. Oh my God, Ottawa, why are you trying to force a puck there through 4 guys? Awful turnover. Lucky it didn't go in. 5 seconds after I sent that. Faceoff win, Benoit, goodbye. Steve, I picked the Leafs to win this series in 5. They could easily sweep this series. Your response text said Ottawa is stunned. They are. You could hear a pin drop in there, bar the Leafs fans that did get in the building. Man, I just don't. And I'm saying this about a Leafs team that are career choke artists. I don't see any way back for Ottawa. I just don't.
No, and I think what you saw, in Game 3, was an experienced playoff team versus a team who, hey, we're here. Because you're right, Ottawa for the first 10 minutes, played the physical game, but the Leafs absorbed that. Like, they absorbed the hits. They gave a few shots back. They didn't panic. They didn't really make any super bad turnovers. They were able to get the puck out under duress. And they were chippy when they needed to be. So it's just one of those things where, you've had a team that has made the playoffs consistently and who this year truly believed going in that they could get by the first round. Like, they didn't have to face a Florida or a Boston coming in. They finished in first, which gave them a wild card team, as opposed to that sandwich game with Florida or Tampa Bay. So, I'm sure Ottawa will be coming out gunning in Game 4, no doubt about it, on Saturday night. But the Leafs are just too much in the zone, and I think they'll take it Saturday night.
It's it's not just a skill thing either. Like, the Leafs give Brad Treliving a lot of credit for this. And I know we're saying, I know there's some Leaf fans right now for sure that are probably watching or listening to this and going like, guys, the series isn't over. Don't do this. Like, they're emotionally scarred, and I understand. But I genuinely just do not see how Ottawa gets back in this series, because what would you say? Like, oh, Allmark needs to be better? Yeah, of course he does. This guy, he's lost, as we record this, he's lost 6 straight playoff games. This guy gets in the playoffs and he is disgusting. Like, and he had a pretty up and down year in Ottawa this year. Like, he'd go on good runs, he'd get hurt, he'd have a slump, he'd get hurt, come back, play good. His playoff, like, he better screw his head on straight here pretty soon. Because, like, yeah, you got a Vezina trophy. That's great. When the games count, this guy cannot get it done. And look, it's not to blame him. You know, it's not just solely him. But, I mean, in terms of what you'd say, like, how they get back in this series, yeah, he'd need to be way, way better. And he was pretty good through 40 minutes.
I mean, you look at what he did. I mean, in Game 3, he stopped Nylander on a breakaway, and whose fault is it that Nylander's in behind 4 Ottawa players? Like, nobody saw him, and so. But that's the thing is, at this point in this snapshot of time, Toronto's lineup is just too deep, and they've been to this point just too many times, and it looks like they're finally using their heads and showing some sandpaper when it's needed. So that's kind of the situation they're in. I mean, it's great that Ottawa got in, and the cities have. My daughter lives in Ottawa. It's a zoo.
Yeah, yep.
And that's fantastic. But Toronto's just been there many more times, and they seem to be on a mission right now.
They're healthy too, and also, like I said with Treliving, like, you're looking at the guys that they brought in that do those little things. Like, I know a lot of people down the stretch were like, how come we traded a first-round pick for Scott Laughton? Tonight, Game 3, if not even the first 2 games too, tonight you saw why you trade a first-round pick for a guy. Because people go, oh, you can't trade. You trade a first-round pick, people think, oh, it's the guy we get in return better be a 70-point player. And sometimes that's not really the case. Like, those guys that are big point producers generally cost more than that, and they generally cost real assets. A first-round pick for what Scott Laughton is bringing to this lineup right now, perfectly acceptable price. Like, what he's doing out there, physically winning draws. That's the other thing. Game 2 and 3 in particular, Ottawa's getting caved in the face-off dot. Like, Toronto centers are abusing them. And you look at Ottawa's guys, and they're in a position right now where the Leafs guys have found themselves for 9 years. Until this series, the core 4, I saw the stat on Sportsnet, I'm sure you saw it too. The core 4 in 7 games against the Bruins last year scored 6 goals and 12 points between the 4 of them in 7 games. They've got 18 points and I think 9 goals between them through 3 games now. Like, the Leafs are doing exactly what you'd expect of a division winner versus a wild card team. They are taking their feet and stamping down on Ottawa's head. And I just don't, this is a big brother, little brother wrestling match. I just don't know what Ottawa can realistically do if the Leafs keep playing like this.
And, you know, not only are their top 4 producing, but the spotlight's also being swung to that secondary scoring. Max Domi scores the OT winner in Game 2. Matthew Nyes picks up a big goal tonight on a little backhand through the crease that hits a stick and goes in. You know, those quote-unquote garbage goals that you need to win. So, I mean, they're doing the job. The defense is playing defense. Nobody's expecting Morgan Rielly to score 20 points in a series. Like, and then you got, like, Benoit, who has played great and is chippy in front of his own net, keeping everybody at bay. And, that's what you need. Get by this series, and then the test begins, because you're going to come up to a much tougher team in either Florida, Tampa. I picked Florida to win that series. Plus, I got 3 Panthers in my pool. So they can't look too far ahead. Get through this one, of course. And, kudos to Berube too, right? I think they have a coach that's focused them on what needs to be done. And he's keeping everybody in that tunnel and telling them to, hey, you got to keep the foot on the gas. Don't ever stop.
And on that note, before we transition to some of the other series, you set up the one we should talk about next, actually, the Battle of Florida. On that note, Game 1, the Leafs opened the scoring, and you saw that clip of Mark Savard and Lane Lambert freaking out on the back, and Berube's like, "Shut up!" He was like, "Don't," because the Chief, he's been there and done that. He's won a cup behind the bench. He recognizes, and it's just such a great hire. He's not willing to blink and give these guys cookies for anything that he doesn't see as significant. And the only thing that he sees as significant is the Stanley Cup. So he's like, why are you guys freaking out about a goal in Game 1? Let the players be excited. We all need to shut up and not think we accomplished anything for winning one game, which I like. Battle of Florida, boy, oh boy, and it got heated tonight. Brandon Hagel, who's had a real coming out party this year, what an idiotic penalty he took, labeling Sasha Barkov, and a lot of people were going, "Oh, that was a clean hit." It wasn't a clean hit. Barkov has to touch the puck for that to be a clean hit, and then there were other people going, it should only be 2. It should only be 2. The reason why it's 5, and people were going, he didn't even hit him in the head. He didn't even hit him in the head. We have been so toxically poisoned mentally as hockey fans since Matt Cook started taking guys' jaws off. And I mean, guys were doing it long before Matt Cook, but Rule 48 is the Matt Cook rule because he was the guy, right? We've been so poisoned by that we forget that dangerous plays and dangerous hits don't have to involve someone getting hit in the head. And Hagel, who I would love to have on my team, he made a bad decision here. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he should have laid up there. And Barkov didn't return, by the way. The Panthers won Game 2, 2-0. Barkov didn't return. Hopefully he's okay because his head snapped back when he hit the ice, not from any contact from Hagel. He didn't hit him in the head. He hit him in the shoulder. But it's a blatant interference, and the reason he gets 5 but not a game misconduct is because the referees deemed it, and they reviewed it. The league office reviewed it, and they deemed that it was a dangerous play, but they didn't give him a game misconduct for a head check. That's a discretion that the referees can use. You can give 5 minutes and not get tossed, which he was lucky not to. But man, that series, I picked Tampa and Florida. I mean, the defending champs, they are not allowing them any space. I don't know, man.
I call it swagger.
Yeah.
I think I've watched some of the series so far, and in Florida just seems to have the swagger. It's business as usual. We've been here before. We know how to win. You add Brad Marchand, who has been there before. He knows how to win, and he's fit in quite nicely with the way Florida plays. And they're just out. They're out sandpapering Tampa Bay right now. And you have 2 great goaltenders in the crease, so scoring is going to be at a premium. So it'll be exciting down the stretch in that series. But I think Florida's going to eke their way out of that one. You just got to question whether or not Tampa Bay is going to tenderize them enough for the Leafs to put them away in the next round.
Yeah, that's what Leaf fans are hoping for. They want it to go 7. What I wonder too, Tampa, like they've done all the same things you just outlined with Florida. They've won before. They went to 3 straight cup finals. Like they got guys that are all-time playoff performers. I'm wondering who it is that's going to dig them out of this, though. Like, and obviously it's Point, it's Cirelli, it's Kucherov, it's Hedman, it's Gensel. It's those guys. Someone's got to find their game pretty quick here, because if you get on 3-0 to Florida, like that's a real tough task the way that Bob can play. But I would say the same thing about Tampa. Like if they can find their game and Vazzy locks it in, like you never know. I will say this too, and I want to just address this for Clarkey and everybody out there that loves freaking out about the referees. And I know what he'd say if he was here. You freak out at the refs more than anybody. I've toned it down quite a bit. That said, and this will transition into the next series we talk about. Look, guys, the referees are bad. They're bad all the time. They're not trying to be bad. I want to point that out I'm sure Steve McAllister would be strangling me right now. They don't want to be bad. It's just that they are. And what it is clearly a mandate from the league, because every year we hear, the playoffs are different. And that's great when you're talking about the way the players are playing. When there's rules involved in a sport, like you don't eliminate the first 2 people in a game of Monopoly and then all of a sudden you're down to 2 people at the table and the rules change, right? So that's where people get frustrated, because they go, well, how come the standard is so different, where in the regular season that would be a trip, in period 1 of a playoff game that's a slash, or in period 1 it wasn't a slash, and now with 5 minutes left in the third in a 1-goal game it is a slash. That's where people get frustrated, and I completely understand that. Has there been some bad stuff that's gone on in these playoffs? Yeah, and my team's been involved. Like the cross checks to the face have been unbelievable in this first round, and the Caps have gotten away with a few, and that's true. What I'll say though, to end my take on this, Steve, and I'll let you jump in because I know you have lots of thoughts. I'll say what I have said to Clarkey for years. The reffing's going to be bad for everybody, not just you. And every Stanley Cup champion that's ever won persevered through getting bad calls. And ultimately, if you think that any of these series would be wildly different if every single thing got called, keep in mind that would also involve every single thing that your team does getting called. So it wouldn't necessarily change anything. And when I'm talking about these series, the Tampa one, the Toronto one, and the Caps Montreal one, which have been, in my opinion, the 3 most scrutinized ones officiating-wise, I'm sorry, but the circumstance would not change. Florida's been way better than Tampa so far. Toronto has been way, way better than Ottawa. And the Caps are dummying Montreal. They've had 2 good third periods. Montreal, God bless them, they got their legs churning in those third periods and gave us a little scare, and hooray. The Caps are annihilating them and outchancing them, outshooting them, wildly out-hitting them. It would still be 2-0. Sabby?
Well, first of all, to the officiating. I once interviewed a couple of officials, and it was mentioned to me that they're just there to call penalties and put people in the box or whatever. Their job is to manage the game, to try to keep the flow going as much as possible.
People hate that, eh?
But so let me use 2 examples that I saw in the Toronto-Ottawa game in Game 3. Toronto was up on a power play. Knies is at the side of the net and went to go to try to get a puck in the corner and was clearly hooked down. Like it was a hook. So Toronto's already on the power play. There was no scoring opportunity on that. The puck was clearly gone out of the way. So they let the play continue. Actually, I may have seen the referee's arm kind of jut out to the side. So I don't know if he was waving something to his partner or was trying to make a decision. The other example is there was a breakout from the Toronto end, and Marner was tripped up coming out over the blue line. The play had already moved up the ice. They didn't call that trip. Now, out of those two penalties, I would say the hooking one would have been more of a call than the one that Marner was tripped on.
Yeah.
So they're taking into account a lot of things. The thing that really gets me, though, Ryan, is the excessive force. Like after a scrum in front of the net, if that stick comes up and clips a guy in the teeth on a cross check, those are the kind of things you got to call definitively, because then you're letting the management of the game get away from you.
And they're not doing it right now. I mean, like, hey, I'm a Caps fan. We've gotten away with some gnarly cross checks.
And you know, the other side of it, guys will get in scrums and they fall on the ice and they're holding each other on the ice.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, two of you go off for holding. I mean, that will just slow the game down incredibly. But it's the dangerous stuff that you gotta watch out. And hey, kudos to some of the crews too, because there's been instances in the playoffs where they called a 4-minute penalty, and the reason they called the 4-minute penalty was to stop the play and review it on video review to get the call right. Two follow-throughs that they said wasn't high sticking, it was on the follow-through, that they kind of waved off the penalty on that.
One in the Cap series, Yep.
Yeah, so, I mean, and that was the correct call. And I love it, though, because they call a 4-minute penalty and then everybody boos. And it's like, guys, they're just going to review it. They have to call the forward to review the play. Because if they call it 2, it's a penalty. They can't review a 2-minute.
Yeah, you can't review that, and that was the right call. Yeah, that was game 1, late in the third. Alexiev got clipped. Can't remember who it was that got him, maybe Heineman, and Alexiev lost a couple chiclets up front, and it was the right call, and I wasn't freaking out. It was like, it's a follow-through. He followed through on a clear out, and he hit him in the face. Like, no big deal. And for some people, particularly probably Montreal fans, they're going to look at that and say, well, the cross-check on Gallagher in game 1 and the cross-check on Cole Caulfield in game 3, yeah, those should have been calls. I understand. Look, in game 2, I could look at somebody who was having that argument and say, how about during the power play that Washington didn't score on, and John Carlson got slew-footed by Josh Anderson? That's one of the best defensemen that's one of the best defensemen in the league, and he got slew-footed. That should have been an automatic 5-on-3. The Capitals shook it off, and they won. And they would have beat Montreal even if that cross-check on Cole Caulfield got called. Sorry. I know people hate to admit that, and they think that power plays are everything. But, yeah, look, the officials are frustrating. They're going to be frustrating when you're invested in a team. It stinks. If your team's good enough, they're going to win the Stanley Cup. Like, I'm telling you that right now. If your team's good enough, they're going to win.
If your Caps don't start playing a third period, they're not going to get too far past the second round.
Logan Thompson has something to say about that. I don't know.
Well, hey, that's one thing for your goaltender to play. You need your whole team in the third period. Like, they should be blitzing Montreal by more than a goal.
That's the thing. That's the thing, though, that, you know, that's the double-edged sword when you're looking at any team that we're talking about in playoff scenarios. On one hand, you'd look at those third periods, and I was frustrated with them for sure. Less so game 2. I actually thought game 2 was fine. Montreal was just throwing everything at the net, and for the most part, the Caps were keeping them to the outside. On one hand, you'd go, hey, that's a bad third period. You can't keep doing that. Well, on the other side of the sword, though, I'm sitting here going, well, they have mostly dominated them. They've wildly outchanced them, and they're up 2-0 in the series and haven't played their best. So that's a sign of encouragement, too. Keep in mind, too, you know, Washington's without 2 of their best players. Martin Fehervary's out for the season, which is a huge hole on their back end, and Alexi Protas hasn't played yet. I hear he's going to play in game 3. He'll be a game-time decision, but that's a 30-goal scorer that's not in Washington's lineup, and they're up 2-0. And you could say that for Toronto, if you're sitting there going, well, you can't now, they're up 3-0. But I mean, if they had lost game 3, you'd sit there and go, well, we didn't really play that well or whatever. You could pick out little details and we should have got this call. We're up 2-1 still. So it's a double-edged sword, right? Let's quickly touch on a couple of the other series as well. One that's like the Winnipeg St. Louis one, has, I think, been the most physical series so far. It's unbelievable watching these two teams launch each other out of cannonballs and just run into each. It looks like a car crash every night. It's unbelievable. The most compelling series, I think, so far has, for many, many reasons, of which we'll talk about the rest of this show. Dallas, Colorado has been as advertised. It's fast, it's wide open, then it switches into being a slugfest, physical, nasty, great goaltending, great players making great plays. Tyler Seguin with a big OT winner the other night. Sorry to mention that, producer Adam. I still think Colorado's got it. I picked Dallas to win the cup, by the way. But man, that series has just been electric. I don't know if there's any other stuff you want to touch on, Steve, like playoff wise, some of the other stuff that sticks out to you.
Yeah, no, Dallas, Colorado could easily be the Western Conference Final in the first round.
Yeah.
It's been I have caught some of the LA Edmonton series. You take my
Edmonton hasn't
open. You know what? And you know, it's I mean, LA looks like they're on a mission. I mean, they've been bounced by Edmonton, the last couple of seasons.
3 straight years.
Yeah, and they are just dialed in. You look at the eyes of like Quentin Byfield, Drew Doughty, Kopitar, you know, some of the guys in there. Like they remind me of the Kings when they're playing the Chicago Blackhawks when they won the Stanley Cup back in the day. They just seem to be in unison. Everything from blocking shots to keeping, you know, the top dogs of the Oilers to the outside to the transition game on a turnover. Edmonton's defense looks scattered and lost, and really relying too much on their two big guns to try to set them up. So, you know, if Edmonton can't win Game 3 at home, they're in big trouble.
Yeah, that's the other one I wanted to touch on too. Man, the Oilers, like, they're banged up. They're not healthy. You can tell Ekholm not being out there is like really rough on them, particularly on a guy like Evan Bouchard, who's not a great defender to begin with. Like, does amazing things out there, and the power play can sizzle, but Ekholm really does a lot for him. Stuart Skinner is a man lost in the bush right now. Like, he's in Thunder Bay somewhere, buried in the bush, man. Like, I don't know what that dude is up to, what's going on with him. He had a great playoff run last year. I don't know. I personally, I'd throw Pickard in there in Game 3 because he's been so poor. Like, give LA all the credit in the world. I mean, especially the 6-2 game. They're just roughhousing Edmonton. That said, like, there's some goals that are occurring that are leaky that maybe if that save happens, it's still a 2-goal game or you keep it within 1, and they're just not happening. I think they got to turn to Pickard just for a different look because you don't have time to guess. Like, well, maybe Game 3 he'll get it together. You don't have time for that if you're Chris Knobloch. I'll say this too, and he gets picked on a lot, and I feel bad because I love the guy. He was a great junior player. His sister's an all-timer, or his cousin rather, I believe, Sarah. Darnell Nurse, I know he's an easy target out there, and when things go wrong for Edmonton, he's their Marner. Like, he eats a lot of crap out there. but he also does make $9 million. Like, and what he's bringing to the sheet right now. And again, I'm not telling anybody I'm not revealing some big mystery here, but you need guys like that to not be playing like this. Like, he's getting caved in his own zone. And that's just eye test stuff. If you look at the analytics too, it's not friendly for him right now. And obviously they're not losing solely because of Darnell Nurse or Stuart Skinner or Jeff Skinner or many of those other guys. But I think that people will rightly have a leg to stand on in terms of having a good hard look up at the press box at Stan Bowman and going, what exactly were you trying to put together here? Because this did not work out well.
But if you look at again, just the way these games so far, and you look at the way LA breaks out of their zone, it's in unison. They're almost like a Spartan line. Everybody knows where they need to be at what point in time and where the puck is going. Edmonton is, hey, give it to McDavid, give it to Bouchard, give it to a guy who will carry it in deep for us, and then we'll catch up. Like, there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason. It's very scattered. And all LA has to do is swarm the puck carrier, knock them off the puck, and they go the other way. It just seems that easy for LA.
Yeah, it really does. And they conversely are getting great performances out of everybody. Darcy Kemper's revived his career. Nice to see trades like that, where it works out really well on both sides. Like, Kemper from Washington revives his career. Dubois, lost cause, unbelievably effective player for Washington. But then if people who go to bed early after Eastern Conference games aren't familiar with what Adrian Kempe's been up to the last couple of years, that kid, you talk about an unsung hero out there. He is playing out of his mind. Like, what a weapon he is. And people that are staying up late and watching these LA games, you can't avoid seeing him. He's on the highlights. Got 3 goals, for God's sake. He's been unbelievable. And Kuzmenko, the dusty old toy that got tossed around the league this year, he's effective for them. They utilize his skill set on the power play, and that's all they need out of him. They don't need him to go out there and defend. He's not gonna, and they know that. LA's playing you talk about the teams. Toronto and LA are dominating their series more than any other team is so far. Toronto and LA are dominating their series. Washington would be a close third.
I would push Washington in there for sure.
There's just those third periods take them down a notch for me below the other two.
Yeah, I will say that watch out for Minnesota. They could be a sleeper.
Jeez.
Definitely not what you would expect. Again, Vegas finishing, a little higher in the standings, and with all the skill they have and the experience that they have.
Division winner too.
Yeah, I still think Vegas will eke out, slip through that series, but it may be a little tougher than what people think. And Winnipeg's got to be careful with St. Louis. If St. Louis gets on a heater again,
don't let them do that.
No, they find their playoff feet and watch out. So, but I'd expect you'll see in the East, Toronto, Florida, Washington, Carolina as your final 4, and in the West, you'll have Colorado, Winnipeg, Las Vegas, and I hate to say it, but the Kings.
Yeah, it looks that way.
Just based on play.
Yeah, for sure. It's been interesting. All right, we'll take a quick break, come back, wrap things up with the Couch Potatoes here on Instigating. Wrapping things up this week on Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. Thanks for watching, listening. Really appreciate it. Another quick reminder, you can catch all the Hanover Barons action on CKNX AM 920, CKNX.ca, and of course on Whiteman when they're at home. Steve Sabourin, voice of the CKNX Junior Hockey broadcasts. Couch potato time. What have you picked out? Lot to touch on, lot to talk about.
Oh, tons of opportunity here from a lot of places. Some great food cooked at the Sabourin household over the last couple of days. Nothing like a pizza wheel or a bag of French fries. But I think for the couch potato, I'm going to have to go with the Minto 81s.
Yeah.
Showing up at the Allan Cup, buckling down, winning 7-5 and 3-2 to advance to the semifinals. An amazing appearance. Hopefully they can pull it through, but I think the Minto 81s as the couch potato of the week for me.
I love that. A nice positive one. I have a positive one as well. Shout out, though, before I reveal my real couch potato, to the harmonica ladies in LA. That is taking on a whole other life. I can't believe the harmonica ladies. Like this, if you don't know what I'm talking about, the Kings have, I believe it's it's something like the Korean women's harmonica choir playing. There they are playing the national anthem with the harmonicas. It's outrageous, and it's taken on a whole life of its own. They're like their good luck charm now. Like they can't get rid of the harmonicas. Like they got to do it every game now.
Well, if you noticed in the first game, they were in their traditional costumes, and then in the second appearance, they were all sporting the Kings jerseys. So,
they've embraced it. I love it. It's really something. But my real couch potato, because it's a weird one, but they're embracing it, and that's their thing. And there you go. Shout out to, there they are, the harmonica ladies. One last look. But my real couch potato, and producer Adam will be happy. How could it not be Gabriel Landeskog? Gabe's a babe, and he's back. 1,096 days, I believe it was, since his last appearance, which was in the Stanley Cup final when Colorado won in 2022. It's absolutely bonkers with the crazy knee injury that he got, had a tendon cut, and then had an experimental procedure done on his knee. For this guy to come back, and we've heard the last couple of years, there's rumblings Gabe Landeskog is like going to try and make a comeback. And then last year it was he's skating around with the team. There was that clip of him showing up at the practice facility one day, wheeling around with the guys. And I was like, that's great. Good for Gabe. Then about a month ago, it was like Landeskog might play in the playoffs. And it's like, all right, we've been hearing about that, and then game one, it's like, this guy might play. And then they wheel him out there in game 3 finally, and it's just absolutely nuts. The reception he got from the home fans was absolutely incredible. For this guy to come back and do this, and his first shift, he labeled his former teammate Mikko Rantanen as well and laid him out, and I thought the roof was going to come off of that place. Gabe Landeskog, you are 100% my couch potato. We love stories like this, persevering. That's a cap. Look at him labeling Rantanen. That's just so funny. What a warrior. Gabe Landeskog. Gabe's a babe. You are my couch potato of the week. Producer Adam, I'm sure he's very happy. Would have been an emotional thing to see. Great stuff from Gabe Landeskog. All right.
Adam pulled the longest clip possible of that. He had to. He had to make it the longest screen time.
He should, because it's a great story. It's an awesome story. I'm so happy for it. Yeah, we didn't show. We wouldn't have been able to. I'm a softie. I cry at everything. Like his wife, when he skated out, I was bawling. It was so amazing to see that. Really cool stuff. All right. Thanks to everybody for watching and listening. Remember, you can watch us Friday nights at 9, Sunday nights at 8. with our friends on Whiteman TV. That's channel 6 for Whiteman subscribers. We debut on our YouTube channel Friday nights at 9. You can follow us on social media at Instigating Pod. And you can find the podcast version on all your favorite podcast apps. Best of luck to the Hanover Barons. Best of luck to the Minto 81s. How about that? And you can hear all of that Barons action again on CKNX with that man right there, Steve Sabourin, Johnny K, and myself. We'll be back next week with more Instigating.